Oprah Winfrey, Tyler Perry, Steve Harvey, Kevin Hart. So everybody that Cat sat right here and told you about, everything he was saying was on the up and up. No one's saying he's lying.
On the 6th day of the trial, something unexpected happened that totally changed the vibe in the courtroom. Monique walked up to the stand. She's not just any actress, but a real Hollywood celebrity known for being a talented comedian and actress with a strong personality. Everyone in the courtroom, including journalists and lawyers, was surprised by her appearance because no one expected her to speak. When Monique began to speak, she immediately captured the attention of the entire audience. She didn't just talk about events, she revealed details that usually remain hidden. What goes on behind the scenes in Hollywood, in a world where cameras and spotlights shine, but where there are many dark secrets and behind-the-scenes games. She spoke candidly, without embellishment, about the atmosphere of pressure and intrigue, and how often people in the industry are forced to remain silent or hide the truth. For many, her words were a real revelation. What is usually kept secret was now coming out into the open. This added drama to the trial and made everyone in the courtroom think about how complex and opaque life behind the scenes can be. The entire courtroom, including lawyers and journalists, listened intently, as if this were an important turning point in the case that could influence the outcome of the trial. She began her speech very clearly and simply, immediately explaining why she had come to court and why she had decided to speak out now. Monique said that she had been asked to tell the truth, and that was exactly what she intended to do, without embellishment or excuses. This immediately made it clear to everyone that her words would be serious and important, not just pretty speeches for the sake of show. She then went on to explain in detail how she had been trying for many years to warn the public that behind the glossy image of Hollywood, with all its red carpets, bright lights, and glitzy parties, there were very dark and cruel mechanisms at work. According to her, there is a whole system that strictly controls the careers of many Black artists and prevents them from freely choosing their own path. She explained that these are not just rumors or isolated cases. It is a well-thought-out, coordinated network of people and rules that influence everything. Who gets the lead role, who remains in the shadows, and who ends up out of work altogether. Monique said that she herself has repeatedly encountered such schemes and has seen how they work from the inside. She talked about how many artists are afraid to speak openly about such things because they fear losing their careers or facing serious problems. They often have to choose between the truth and the opportunity to work, and in most cases, they choose silence. She emphasized that this silence is one of the main reasons why these schemes continue to exist. Her words were a real eye-opener for everyone listening. Monique seemed to lift the curtain and reveal that behind the glitz and glamour lies something much more complex and darker than many could have imagined. She wanted the court and everyone present to understand that Hollywood is not just a place where movies are made, but an entire system that often unfairly controls people's lives, especially Black artists. And she came here to finally tell the truth that many were afraid to speak aloud. She went into great detail about her relationships and conflicts with 3 major Hollywood figures: Diddy, Tyler, Perry, and Oprah Winfrey. All of them are influential people with enormous weight in the industry, and her stories about them immediately attracted maximum attention. Her accusations against Tyler Perry, who, according to her, played a key role in the dark moments of her career, were particularly strong and emotional. Monique said that in 2018, they had a private phone conversation that, in her opinion, clarified a lot and revealed a new side to him. During this conversation, Tyler Perry, who is known as a producer and director, allegedly admitted to her that he had unfairly defamed her in the industry. In other words, he said bad things about her that damaged her reputation and affected her career. However, despite this admission, he refused to make a public apology. The reason, according to Monique, was quite simple and at the same time indicative of the entire system. Tyler explained that if he apologized publicly, there would be consequences, a scandal that would affect not only him, but also other influential people, including Diddy. Thus, it was not just a personal story, but a whole network of influence and mutual interests where everyone is afraid to reveal the truth in order not to harm themselves and their partners. To back up her words, Monique submitted a written transcript of the conversation to the court. It includes a quote from Tyler Perry. "There are too many people with NDAs who don't want the truth to come out. NDAs are non-disclosure agreements that prohibit people from talking about what goes on behind the scenes. These agreements help control information and hide inconvenient facts from the public." According to her, it is because of these agreements that many artists and influential people are afraid to speak the truth. The fear of being sued or losing their jobs forces them to remain silent. even if they know about injustices and want to speak out. Monique emphasized that these NDAs become a kind of carpet under which serious problems and dishonest schemes are hidden. In the end, her story about her conversation with Tyler Perry became not just a personal anecdote, but a symbol of how this industry works, with its fears, intrigues, and strict control over information. It made everyone in the room think about how difficult it is to fight such a system, and how much strength it takes to simply tell the truth. After recounting her phone conversation with Tyler Perry, Monique moved on to another equally disturbing story: her memories of a party organized by Diddy in 2006. She was invited by an actor she knew at the time. The event took place in a luxurious mansion in the Hollywood Hills, an area of Los Angeles where the rich and famous live. Everything looked prestigious, expensive, with a hint of an exclusive elite. From the very beginning, everything seemed strange to her. As soon as she entered the house, she was asked to hand over her phone. No photos, videos, or messages. Then she was given an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, to sign. This is essentially an official ban on telling anyone what she sees or hears there. Signing such a document, she explained, was a prerequisite for participating in the event. She described the atmosphere inside. The lights in the house were dimmed, music was playing everywhere, and candles were lit. It seemed like a relaxing atmosphere, but in reality it looked like a carefully staged scene. In some rooms, she said, there were what she called strange and clearly inappropriate activities for the general public. She did not go into specific details, but made it clear that these were things that could not be described as harmless or simply eccentric. According to her description, there were men and women in revealing, sometimes almost non-existent clothing in these rooms, and everything that was happening had the character of something secret and not entirely legal. At one point, one of Diddy's assistants approached her and said that everything happening at the party was about experience, and that she had nothing to worry about if she just signed an NDA. Essentially, she was offered to play the game on the condition of complete silence, but Monique refused. According to her, she immediately had an inner feeling that she shouldn't stay there. She refused to sign the agreement and left the mansion without even waiting to see how it would end. She cited this episode as an example of how the Hollywood system works in its most closed form, through fear, non-disclosure agreements, and elite parties that are supposedly about experience, but in reality can hide something completely different. And she made it clear that if she had stayed then, her career in life might have taken a completely different path. After she refused to attend Diddy's party and did not sign the non-disclosure agreement, events in her life began to unfold very differently. Monique said that almost immediately after that, her career went into decline. Whereas before, offers had been pouring in one after another, shoots, projects, roles. Now it was as if everything had been cut off. The calls stopped, auditions passed her by, and offers from studios dried up. But this was not just a coincidence. She believes that it was a direct result of her refusal to play by the unspoken rules that, according to her, exist in the industry. She did not sign an NDA, did not stay at the party, did not agree to be part of what was happening, and for that, she began to be pushed aside. According to her, this is how the system works. If you don't comply, you start to be seen as a problem. Rumors began to circulate in the industry that she was a difficult person, and this, she says, became a label that followed her around. But as she emphasizes, she was not considered difficult because of her behavior on set, but because she refused to remain silent, sign papers, and pretend that everything was fine when it was not. It was a kind of punishment for choosing to be honest and not compromising her values. Thus, according to Monique, her refusal to participate in closed and questionable practices was the reason why her career suddenly and inexplicably came to a halt. She believes that this is a clear example of how a hidden but powerful system of control works in Hollywood. If you refuse to obey, you become an outcast. And Monique also said that Tyler Perry and Diddy have a close relationship and support each other, which helps them maintain their influence and control over the industry. She cited an episode from 2010 when Tyler Perry publicly donated $1 million to Bishop T.D. Jakes' church. At first glance, it seemed like a generous, even noble gesture, helping a church and doing a good deed. But according to Monique, there was more to this gesture than just charity. It was a well-thought-out deal. She believes that the money was part of a strategy used by influential people to quiet the noise. That is, to appease those who could cause a scandal or reveal unpleasant details. In other words, it was a way to maintain a positive image and silence those who know the truth. In her opinion, This gesture was not a sincere donation, but rather a tool of control. The money was used as a kind of payment for silence, or even as a way to manage the situation so that scandals would not surface and ruin reputations. This, she said, is another example of how hidden mechanisms of power and influence work in Hollywood, where the public image often differs greatly from reality. Monique said that throughout her career, she has repeatedly met people who work directly for some of Hollywood's most influential and famous figures, such as Diddy, Tyler Perry, and Oprah Winfrey. These employees, whether they are assistants, PR agents, or lawyers, do not just perform everyday tasks. According to her, they are part of a huge and well-organized network created specifically to protect the interests of their bosses and prevent unpleasant information from appearing in the public domain. She explained that this network is not just a random group of people, but a well-coordinated team that acts quickly and efficiently. If someone tries to reveal secrets, tell the truth, or even hint at scandals that could damage the reputation of these celebrities, these specialists immediately intervene. They create complex PR campaigns, develop versions of events that are favorable to their clients, and use legal measures to suppress any unwanted discussion. These can include lawsuits, threats, non-disclosure agreements, and other tools of pressure. It was particularly significant that Monique accidentally received one of these internal communications. It was an email that clearly discussed a joint reputation management strategy to protect the interests of Diddy, Tyler Perry, and Oprah. The email detailed the steps to be taken to quell the noise and prevent the spread of information that could cause a scandal. According to her, this email was living proof of the secret mechanisms behind the glitz and glamour. Monique handed the letter over to the court. It was marked with a red stamp, which is usually used to highlight particularly important and confidential documents, further emphasizing the seriousness and official nature of this evidence. Thanks to this document, the court was able to see how carefully and systematically this network operates. Not just individual people, but an entire structure created to hide the truth and control information. This episode became one of the key moments of her speech, because it showed how deeply this system had penetrated the industry and how difficult it was to fight it. Monique wanted the court and everyone listening to understand that behind the beautiful faces and big names lies an entire machine that carefully ensures that the truth does not come out. And this is not just theory or speculation, it is reality, confirmed by specific documents and personal experience. At the trial, Monique spoke about something that exists in Hollywood that she called the list. True, it is not some official or written document that can be put on a table and shown. No, it is more of an unspoken understanding and an invisible network that operates in the shadows. Everyone who works in the industry knows who is on this list and what it means for those who end up on it. The essence of the list is that if you dare to speak out against the untouchables, that is, the people around whom the entire system of power and influence is built, such as Diddy, Tyler Perry, or Oprah Winfrey, you automatically become a difficult character. You start to be labeled as someone who is difficult to work with, who cannot be trusted, and who supposedly creates problems for the entire industry. Monique emphasized that such a label is effectively a death sentence for your career. Once you are considered dangerous or unreliable, projects and offers disappear, doors close, and you find yourself on the sidelines of the industry. All of this happens without any official explanation or public accusations. You are simply and decisively pushed out. She explained that this list is not some kind of scare tactic, but a real and effective system of control that helps those in power maintain their influence and prevent criticism. It's a way of maintaining order in an industry where nothing is said publicly. But in reality, there is strict censorship and pressure on those who try to reveal uncomfortable truths. She shared another example that, according to her, confirms how deep, strange, and even mystical practices go in Hollywood. Monique mentioned an anonymous actor who shared with her his story about a retreat, a closed event where selected people from the industry gather. This retreat was organized by a very influential director, whose name Monique did not reveal, but she made it clear that he was a real big shot, one of those who wield enormous power in the film and entertainment industry. According to the actor, there was a strict control system at this event. All participants had their phones confiscated so that no one could record or photograph what was happening, and they were also forced to sign contracts that no one had ever seen. Before, they were so secret and hidden from prying eyes. The actor said that some strange rituals took place at the retreat, which many would call mystical or even frightening. Monique did not elaborate on the details, probably so as not to harm the person who told her everything and not cause further scandal, but confirmed that these practices went beyond the scope of normal corporate meetings or creative sessions. Monique cited this example to show that behind the facade of glamour and success in Hollywood lie complex and sometimes even sinister mechanisms that control and maintain power. She wanted to convey the idea that there is a lot in the industry that no one sees and that almost no one talks about, but that affects the lives and destinies of many artists and professionals. The culmination of her entire court testimony was a quote from a very important and personal phone conversation with Tyler Perry, which she recorded. In this conversation, Perry directly admitted that his opinion of her was wrong. He said that she was not a difficult person at all, as his entourage in the industry had tried to portray her, that she simply did not agree to work for free. That is, she demanded fair pay for her work, which was not accepted or even dangerous in this system. The phrase Monique quoted in court was, "I know I was wrong. You weren't difficult. You just didn't want to work for free. I should have said that publicly, but I can't, because it would destroy too much." There is a lot implied in these words. Perry himself admits that her reputation was artificially ruined to make her vulnerable and easy to control. But at the same time, he understands that if he publicly apologizes or tells the truth, it will cause a scandal that will affect not only him, but also other influential people. Monique explained that this moment clearly shows how power works in Hollywood. Truth and justice are not valued if they threaten the status and image of the most powerful players. Instead of honestly admitting their mistakes, they prefer to remain silent and hide the truth, using their power to suppress those who dare to speak openly. For her, it was symbolic of the entire system, when you are pushed into a corner not because of your real shortcomings, but because you refuse to obey unspoken rules and accept injustice. It was this suppression that caused her professional problems and personal suffering. She conveyed this message to the court to show that behind the facade of glittering success and friendly connections lies a cruel power game in which truth and honesty are the only victims. She said that her situation was much worse than simply being excluded from the game. According to her, she was literally thrown out of the entire industry, and this was done deliberately and consciously. It was not an accident or a coincidence, but a clearly planned and systematic effort by people who were afraid of losing their influence and positions. What was particularly painful, Monique emphasized, was that this system involved not only representatives of other groups or outside forces, but even people from her own race, those who were also part of the industry and had power. These people, in her opinion, not only failed to protect her, but actively supported or at least did not prevent her expulsion. She wanted to show that Hollywood is a complex and harsh system, where even shared roots or belonging to the same group do not guarantee support and protection. Instead, loyalty to those in power and a willingness to follow the unspoken rules of the game are what matter. If you break out of this system or start telling the truth, you are not simply ignored. You are destroyed in order to preserve the existing order. At the end of her speech, Monique emphasized that her decision to go to court was not motivated by a desire to take revenge on anyone personally or to cause a public scandal. The main reason for her was that the fear of remaining silent had become so great and oppressive that she simply could not go on like this. She said that for a long time she was afraid to speak out because she knew what the consequences could be. But now she understands that if no one dares to speak the truth, this system of silence and concealment will continue to operate, destroying the lives and careers of many people. Monique expressed deep concern about how injustice and lies have become the norm in the industry, and that silence perpetuates this vicious system. She hopes that her courage will inspire others not to be afraid to speak out and fight for justice. Her speech was a call for change, to finally start breaking the chains of fear and secrecy that have kept many trapped for years. Monique's story is not just about one actress facing injustice in Hollywood. It is a lesson about how an industry where power and money often trump truth and justice works. Monique, with her talent and fame, was confronted with a harsh reality. When she refused to play by the unspoken rules and participate in questionable schemes, she was pushed out of the industry. Her career took a sharp downturn after that fateful evening at a private party, where she was asked to sign an NDA and keep quiet about what happened behind closed doors. She refused, and it was as if she ceased to exist. Roles disappeared, calls stopped, and her reputation was deliberately ruined. This is not just a case of a single conflict. It is a reflection of a system where power is concentrated in the hands of a few, and those who dare to speak the truth find themselves blacklisted. Monique's testimony revealed that not only Diddy, But also influential figures such as Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey play a role in maintaining this silence and preserving the status quo. Public apologies are rare, and behind the scenes, negotiations, deals, and pressure are used to preserve images and protect interests. In this context, her words under oath are not just personal experiences, but a challenge to the entire system. She has shown that in Hollywood, the price is often paid not only in money but also in silence, and that the fear of losing one's career forces many to turn a blind eye to what is happening. It is a fear that paralyzes and silences victims, while allowing their abusers to go unpunished. The moral of this story is that the truth always has a price, and sometimes it is too high for those who choose to follow the beaten path, even if that path leads to compromising their conscience. But it is precisely the refusal to remain silent, the willingness to speak the truth and stand up for one's convictions, that is the only way to change the system. Although difficult, it is honesty and courage that create a true foundation for respect and genuine success. So when the system seems too harsh and unforgiving, remember, silence is not salvation, it is defeat. True strength lies in not allowing fear and pressure to overshadow you and continuing to fight for justice, even if that fight is against the most powerful players.